is what the pros are doing, the best of the best. And this guy is a pro because off camera, he's sitting there and he's mindful and he says, hey, we've got to start. You know, I'm ready to do the listing presentation. A good, Frank, welcome, by the way, Frank. I'm really enjoying these, these double acts together. It's like we're flying. It's like we're flying a plane. You know, you're the I'm the pilot. You're the co-pilot.
I'm the hostess.
Yeah. By the way, everyone watching this, Frank Grief from Real Hub, or we know it as Real Base now. The people that have founded the product engage, and my gym members love it. Why? Because they're walking into listing presentations with preeminence. They already have a listing presentation starting before the listing presentation. And I've got to tell you, I don't know whether you know this, Tim, but did you know with the product, you can actually get alerted when the vendor is looking at the document, a text message. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I've seen that type of information when they've actually opened it up. It sends you a little an information so that you know that they've actually opened it. Yep, I'm aware of it.
Now, guys and girls, you've seen Tim in the real estate gym 2 times before. You've seen him 2 times before. And for those that aren't in the gym, I'm letting you know, this guy's a treat. I'll tell you what I like about him. He's a serious pro. And I often think to myself, Tim, how many people do I know that were crushing real estate a decade ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago? And there's not many that come to my mind. I think there's this life cycle where agents sort of can go for, 7 years, and then they sort of fade away. But you have been consistent for what period of time, Tim? How long in real estate?
20 years, 9.5.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Frank, it's very rare. Like if I say to people, look around, who's smashing it that was smashing it? It's 2021. Who was in real estate in 2001 and was crushing it? And I've got to say, my estimate, Tim, would be the average of what you've been writing for the last decade would probably be around a couple of million, 2 million in fees. Am I right?
Yeah, I've written over 2 million multitude of times, certainly over 2.5 times, and I'm certainly on track this year.
Wow, okay. That's awesome. That's amazing. I was in primary school in year 2000.
Yes, I've got to tell you, Frank, you've got to be one of the youngest CEOs in the world of real estate media companies. 20. How old are you now?
I'm 28.
28 years of age. And you know what he said, guys and girls watching this? He tried to trick me. He said, we should go for a run one day, just a bit of a jog. Hey, I want to let you know, I'm 53. If you multiply 28 by 2, that takes it to 56. If we go for a 19-kilometer run, Frank, I'm starting at the 10-kilometer mark. That's fair. Now, let's get into business. Now, Tim, firstly, I just want to get your taste of the market at the moment because I'm getting a lot of mixed signals and I'm getting some agents that are saying it's a frenzy out there. It's crazy. Some of them are saying it's come back a touch. What are you seeing?
I work in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne, so specialise in a suburb like Surrey Hills. And I can tell you that the market's still red hot here in the eastern suburbs. So we're still got a shortage of properties. In your words, an absorption rate is there, not enough sellers for buyers. Okay. So I'm listing really strongly at the moment. So at 11:30 this morning, for this month, I'm listing my 25th property this month.
Wow, that's impressive.
25th property this month.
Yeah, my record's 26 in a month, so I'm out to smash it.
That's awesome.
25th property. And by the way, guys and girls, they're not $300,000 properties in the middle of nowhere. What's your average price, Tim Heavyside?
My average price is 1.7 million.
Wow.
So, Frank, this is a serious operator. We couldn't have picked better. We could not have picked you at a better month to have a conversation about listing presentations because at the moment you're on fire. Now, I want to ask you this question, Tim. the listing presentations that you go to, what percentage of those are presentations that, like, there's trust and there's a strong relationship there, and you sort of go in, like the one you're going to today, is that in that category?
So I met these people that I'm listing today during COVID. I followed them up, so it's been hours and hours of prospecting to get to this position where I'm signing them up today, and it's a competitive environment.
Okay, is this the second meeting with them, or is it more than that?
This is the second meeting. No, it's the third meeting. So I met them over a Zoom meeting like this during COVID, and then got an opportunity last week to meet up with husband and the wife, and I'm signing up today after a lot of work to get to this point.
Tim, can I ask you, since lockdown, have the hours that you do listing presentations changed? Is there less nighttime because people are more working from home with Zoom, or have you noticed that at all?
I can't remember being this busy ever in my whole career. So the hours amount of work, and I just outwork people, Tom, to be quite simple about it. So I am doing things a little bit differently, and to sign up a listing or even sign up a contract of sale is all done through the iPad, and it's my biggest tool, really, the iPad. So I use it all the time.
So are you using electronic signatures?
Absolutely, yeah. Real-time agent.
Real-time agent. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And can I ask you this question, and that is, when the phone call comes in and they say, we want to speak to Tim. Tim, will you come out and look at our home? I want you to describe to me what that process looks like. So you get the phone call, what happens next? There's
three types of listing presentations. So someone that's just looking for an update only. Then the second type is that a decision has already been made. And the third type is a competitive environment. A lot of people just think that it's just that, a competitive environment every single time, when, you can't have a listing presentation for that. You've got to understand, you've got to realise that people's situations are varied, and sometimes just a simple appraisal could be a wonderful pipeline opportunity for you in the future. So the quantify with asking a lot of questions and setting up an appointment and realising the motivation is the most important thing for me.
Okay. What are those questions? May I ask, Tim? Like, what kind of questions do you ask on the phone?
Sure, Frank. So I'd ask, Frank, I always ask for the address first. I always ask what your address is, and then I always say that's a good spot.
Nice.
Okay. Good start. After that, after I've got the address, I'll ask questions like, so how long have you been there? When was the home built? Why are you considering selling? Who else will I be meeting? Getting all the details correct. So those conversations I'd have over the phone generally will take about 10 minutes to set up an appraisal if they're selling. If they're not selling, I'll be very quick.
Yeah.
But if they are selling, there'll be lots of questions that I'll ask and try and build up a rapport. You can generally tell, even over the phone at that point in time, whether or not you've got a reasonable chance of getting the opportunity to list the property.
Awesome.
I like Frank. I like that question. Who else will I be meeting? That's a good question to open up whether you're going to have all decision makers there, or whether you're just getting one person going to be there. I like that. It's a very nice, soft way. Can I ask you, Tim, what are some of the feedback you get that helps you realize, hey, this is game on. This is a seller here. This is not someone just getting an appraisal.
Tonality, Tom. So if the tonality's up, generally tells you that they're going to go with you or they've made a decision. So sometimes I'll ask if the conversation is appropriate. So will I be meeting anyone out? Will you be considering interviewing any other agents other than myself?
I like that. What sort of responses you get from people?
Well, I was thinking about getting another agent in, but we wanted to see how we went with you first. Or, I've actually, I've already called two other agents and you're the third. Or, I am definitely going to meet other agents. So I try and position myself to block other agents out by saying, look, before you do meet up with any other agent, how about we catch up first? And if you need any further information or you don't feel comfortable, then by all means, certainly interview other agents. How does that sound?
Wow. Now, Tim, I presume that to people that you got trust with before, that would flow better than someone that's totally cold. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, let's assume you've gone through those questions and let's assume you've now locked a time.
Yeah.
What happens next in your preparation?
Yeah. I tend to I send a text message as quick as I can.
Yeah.
So once I've got Tom Panos, let's say I'm doing an appraisal for you and I've got your details, and I'll send you a text. Like the rule is I unlock the 6660 rule, the 6660. So within 60 seconds, I'll send a text with my details and just reconfirming the appointment. And also separate to that, I'll share my contact with you. So I want to be in your phone. That's what I'm after. I'm trying to send a text as soon as I can to show that I'm professional, I'm on the ball, and you've got my contact details saved in your phone.
Okay.
But texting is very big for me. I text a lot of people all the time. And then within 6 minutes, I'll send an email video links, and they could be appropriate video links. I do a lot of video.
Yeah.
So something will be relevant to Tom about his property or the area. And then within 60 minutes, if they are selling, we drop off a pre-list.
Awesome.
Okay. So, Frank, and at any stage, you just, yell out if you want to ask a question, because I'm just, I'm finding this one. I love talking to Tim. He's a thinker, right? He's not just a guy. He's not just a guy that says, "Oh yeah, mate, yeah, we go out there and he thinks about the question you've asked.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, Tim, on the issue of. So I presume that one of your team goes out and gives the document. You don't.
That's right. Yeah. But when they provide the information, they'll generally, that's their first contact with our team, and they'll make a really good impression, knock on the door, ring the doorbell, provide the information, and just say, I know you're meeting up with Tim on Tuesday at 2 p.m. He's a really great guy. You're going to be in the best hands with him.
That's awesome. Can I Tom, do you mind if I just go one step back? So I think I really like what you said there, Tim, around the 6660. Never heard that. Where's that from? It's really interesting. It's a really interesting concept.
That's my IP.
Awesome. That's really cool. Yeah. It's I can tell you've obviously got a team, because it's like a framework that you've provided for the team, which is like really, this is exactly what this kind of training, these are like the little nuggets that people can take. That's so clever, and it's an easy way to think about it, and it's really smart in its approach. So I love that. Thanks, Frank.
So, Tim, the presentation is dropped off. I've seen the printed version of Engage's document as a pre-list. I've seen the digital version. You, by the sounds of it, opt for a printed version.
Yeah. In these times now that it's freed up, during COVID, we just only went with the email version. That was it. So we just cut that part of the business out. But things are freed up again, and people are very comfortable to receive literature like that. And so it's just to set a really nice impression. Yeah. That you're professional.
Now, Tim. So you get to the front door. Now, some people tell me when they get to the front door, they'll either try and sit down and build rapport and have a bit of a chat, or others say, "Hey, let's go for a tour." Where do you stand?
Well, first of all, you ring the doorbell. There's a doorbell. People either knock or ring the doorbell. Ring the doorbell. People go, "What happened to my doorbell?" You don't know where the doorbell is, so definitely ring the doorbell first. That's some people prefer to knock, but
I like
definitely
the sound of the doorbell. Ding dong.
And then, I enjoy. Big smile. Your energy's got to be up. Energy is the decision. So connection is the key. So there's lots of ways to connect with people.
A few nuggets here. Energy is a decision. Connection is the key.
Absolutely.
I love little short liners that you put in your head, and you just realize you're at a listing presentation, you're feeling tired, you slammed 4 beers last night, you're not feeling the best, you watched your AFL team go down, which I know that you absolutely love. Trying to remember, was Geelong, right? Your team's gone down, and then you're at the door. Energy's a choice. Energy's a choice.
Absolutely. So you got to have that connection, and sometimes you might be feeling flat. So often, it's important. I can do some breathing exercises just to get my energy up. So just quick breaths, just get my energy up and going. And you might have had a long day or a long week or a long month or a long year, whatever it is, but you can create good energy for an individual, and people pick up on it straight away. So you've got to be there with them. I'm very conscious of that. Then, just pick what's happening in the vibe, what's happening in the household as well. Because in the household, you might go in and you think that someone's selling, but the wife's out there, she's not engaged. She might be doing the dishes or something, or out doing the laundry, or the husband's in the study on the computer, and he's not coming out. They're not selling. They're not ready. But that's instant for me. If they're not coming out together and they're not coming, you've got to pick up on what's happening with body language and tonality and everything like that. It's very rare that I'm out with these things. So you just look at the surrounding and what's happening.
Now, Tim, that issue of the guided tour versus sitting down first, what do you do?
I prefer sit to a sit. So sit down first, have a chat, ask some questions. Questions are the key, and having the right questions to ask.
Can you do a quick role play with Frank? If you were sitting down, just go through the sort of questions you'd ask. Go for it, Frank.
Frank, I just want to let you know my intention today is an opportunity to meet with yourself and Tom and provide some information, but my intentions are to help.
Cool.
So, Frank, just to recap the conversation that we already had over the telephone. So you said you've been here for 7 years, you're considering downsizing, and you're interviewing a few agents. You'd like to make a decision fairly soon. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
So 7 years ago, when you purchased the property, can I ask, why did you buy the home in the first place?
It was close to the school, so just the kids were at that age, and we wanted to, be at the right location for the school in the area.
And specifically with this home, why did you buy this home other than schools?
I think it suited our family at the time. Single level, 3-bedroom. It seemed neat, and obviously it was within our price range.
Fair enough. And when you say downsizing, have you already purchased a property?
No, we haven't purchased a new property, no.
So would you prefer to buy first or sell first?
It really depends, I guess, if we can get that right price.
Fair enough. And when you say 7 years ago, when you bought this property, had you sold a property before?
That was actually our second property. So we bought an apartment and we sold that to be able to move into this home.
How did that sale go? What method of sale, and was it on the market long?
Oh, look, it was a long time ago, and the market was very different back then, I think. But I think we did. We had to do a private treaty, and it went all right.
Okay. And so, did you have a preferred method of sale this time around?
Look, we'll probably be guided by you, but I'm a bit conscious of privacy. I don't really want a bunch of people through my home at an auction.
Fair enough. And with respect to timing, what type of timing did you have in mind? Now, or shortly, or later in the year?
Ideally, it all comes down to price for us. But if we can find the right price right now, then we'll go for it.
When you say the right price, what price are you thinking?
Well, the one down the street, 2 Smith Street, actually sold for 1.6 the other day. So, we think our kitchen's nicer, so maybe 1.7.
Well, let's have a look at that kitchen. Shall we have a look around?
Yeah, awesome.
Okay, absolute gold, professional, no different to a doctor, sitting there before he actually pulls out his thermometer and his equipment, just diagnosing, asking questions, trying to work out what problem am I solving here. I love it. What problem am I solving here? One thing I want to make an observation on, Tim, actually to question, is when you ask the question and what price are you thinking of, can I ask you, do they ever say to you, we've got no idea, you're the expert, we've called you? Do they say that or not?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so you're quick as a flash say, so if you did know, what would it be?
Jesus. This guy's good. This guy's good. Hey, I used that this morning, Tim, to a guy I was coaching. He goes, I simply don't know what to do to get a listing, Tom. And you know what I said? If you did know, what do you reckon it would be? He said, I'd ring up my client base. I said, problem solved. Take your coaching money back. We don't need to do any more. Right? Okay. So, Tim, I want to now talk about the tour. As you're going through the tour, are you taking notes? Is there an iPad? What's happening there?
I do take notes. So I'm not filling things out on an iPad. I'm engaging with the tour and observing things, picking up on everything I can. Just trying to build rapport as best I can without being syrupy. And, you know, people appreciate the little things that you've done. And the reason I asked Frank before about why he bought the home specifically is that they may have bought it because of the deck or the view or the gardens and, you know, I'll bring that back up into the tour. So I'll reintroduce that part of the conversation because that's the reason why they bought it. So you just hit on that information that Frank provided. So that if he said the kitchen or there was a magnificent picture frame window, then I'd be saying, when you mentioned before about the picture frame window, I can understand why you bought it now. It makes sense to me. And so what you're doing is you're developing a connection. I'm trying to actually build a bond. So I call it a connection of a feeling. So if you can create that connection, you're more likely that they're going to like you. And that if they like you, they're going to list with you.
But Tim, I've got to say, you said something profound there that I want to explore further. And that is the word syrupy, because there's a bunch of real estate agents, which I call the training junkies, that have sit there at a training course and they've heard, hey, what you got to do is give sincere, give compliments and look for common denominators. And you can actually overstretch that, right? Because you're there as a professional, you're there as a heavy hitter to solve a problem. And I think sometimes, Tim, some of these, agents that haven't gone to pro level yet can go through, oh, what beautiful ceilings. Look at the floors. Oh, who decorated this? Oh, wow, I'm a Geelong supporter too. Oh, you play golf as well? And people start saying, aha, commission breath, vomits coming out of the mouth. And I just see that you've got this nice balance, the way that you're speaking. It's also your tone. I can't help it, Frank, as I'm listening to Tim speak, he doesn't come across as a real estate agent. He comes across as a guy that's a serious person there to see whether he can be of help to people. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Syrupy, there's something I've plagiarized. And 60 seconds, 60 minutes. It's going viral. Okay, so Tim, I want to ask, you've seen the property, you've taken your notes, you've built a bit of a connection, not too syrupy. You come back, you sit down somewhere, I presume. Where's it? I mean, you've done so many listing presentations. Where do you normally sit?
I'll generally walk to a spot. So I won't ask them. I'll just walk to a spot and I'll say, can we sit down here? Is that okay? And if they sit in an awkward spot, I'll say, well, I'll either move myself or ask them, actually, it kind of makes more sense if I move there, or can you sit here? Because I'm going to be showing some information. So I'll take control of that part of it.
Okay. Now, what's the conversation sound like? We're into business now. Now we're into, prices, commissions, all that stuff, methods.
The talking stick. So, you've asked questions to Frank, and now the talking stick's back onto you. So you've got information that it's really, my intentions are there to help people. I genuinely like it. So I would sit back down with Frank and just say to Frank, well, based on what you've said before about timing, and you'd be guided on timing, do you have an idea what's happening in the marketplace currently?
It looks like it's pretty hot. Everybody's telling me the prices are continually going up on the news.
Yeah. Are you aware of how many properties are currently on the market in the suburb, Frank?
No, not really.
So as I talk to you, in house-wise, there's 28 houses currently on the market. And I don't know if that number means anything to you, but normally, if we go back to 3 or 4 years ago, there'd be more like 60, 70 houses that'll be on the market. So 28 is actually quite a low number, and the lower the number, the better it is for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So there's every likelihood that there's going to be more properties coming onto the market into that springtime. So if you were looking to come onto the market in the short term, I think it's a wonderful opportunity for you.
Okay, but won't my garden look nicer in spring?
It will, and not to be, not to sound disrespectful to your garden, but it looks lovely now. But you do want to avoid the volume of property that'll come onto the market in springtime, because that's not your friend.
Okay.
Profound, beautiful, and most importantly, the truth, the absolute truth.
Yeah.
You sell in isolation, not in competition. You do the opposite of what people do, because we simply know the absorption rate works in the seller's favor if you're selling in winter versus spring. Having said that, Tim, there's a possibility with lockdown that we're not going to have this low volume winter. What's your feeling?
Well, there is an absorption rate, and I say for absorption. So, Frank, at the moment, if there's 28 houses currently on the market, have you ever made rice?
Yeah, of course.
Jasmine rice, you stick it into the microwave cooker, or you do it on the stovetop, and you put in the right amount of quantity of rice and also water. It creates this beautiful fluffy jasmine rice. It's magnificent. But what happens when you put too much water in?
That's stodgy.
And that's what's happening right now. There's just not enough buyers to satisfy the needs. And so that's why the market's on the improve. So the big question mark when the volume comes on, that we're going to have too much water into the rice. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
I got to tell you, I'll tell you what, this guy's a genius, because he's learned some basic selling rules, and that is that people get influenced in pictures. People get influenced in pictures. So he says it, and then people actually create the image in their head, and they understand the concept. That's gold. Tim, I want to ask you the issue, because I know that you've got this listing presentation you've got to get to, which I believe you've got an appointment at 11. You've got
11:30.
11:30. Okay. So I want to ask you, price is the $64 million question at a listing presentation, right? It can destroy everything that you've done, even if you've been servicing them for years. You say something wrong here, right? It's a difficult thing. You overprice it, you get a turkey. You tell them it's worth this, you got 2 other agents that say, no, we'll get you more, right? How do you handle the price?
I just tell the truth. So I tell them what I believe the home is worth, what willing but not anxious buyers prepared to pay for the property. So I, don't muck around with it. Just, be honest.
A willing, anxious buyer.
Willing but not anxious.
A willing
but not anxious buyer is prepared to pay for your home, Tom. So there's also rules around realestate.com and Domain, how they're priced. So you've got to get in sync with the actual price structure. I call it price bands online. So if you have a look at the price bands, and let's say your property is worth, say, around $2.5 million, how it works on realestate.com or Domain, and all the websites are the same, including our website, is that it goes in $100,000 price increments online up until $2 million. Then it jumps to 2.25, 2.5, 2.75, $3 million. Then it goes 3.5 and $4 million. And Tom, if I'm sitting down in front of you, I'll actually draw this. I'll write it. It creates connection because I'm drawing, which means it's actually childlike. So I'm actually creating something that's simplistic that people can take away and that can actually understand it. Before I got into real estate, I thought vendor was the Coke machine in the hospital ward. I didn't know what vendor meant. Like, people talk about what marketing is. I mean, if you ask 3 different people what marketing is, they'll give you different answers. So you have to be simplistic with vendors. You can't sort of talk in real estate gobbledygook. So with pricing, I actually say, when you're getting in around that $2.5 million price point, it's important that we're hitting certain price bands. And if we're doing an auction, it's got to be competitive.
Okay, so I absolutely adore what you've said, because I know from realestate.com, the research is clear that people buy with their heart, but filter with their brain.
Yeah.
So there's this filtering process. So what you want to do is to make sure that you fall into the right filter, because if you're not in the right filter, you'll have no one to get this emotional connection with your property, fall in love with it, and then pay a premium figure. So you actually sit there and you actually
I draw it.
Draw it up.
So I have a pen and paper always with me. I'm drawing all the time in the listing presentation. So I'll just draw it up, and I'll write the price band up here, and I'll draw it up and show them. We're good agents, but we're not magicians. If the buyers are not going to come, then we're not going to be able to sell the property.
Yeah, Frank, I got to tell you, I love bringing a few diagrams at a listing presentation, because all of a sudden you move away from the cookie cutter and you start looking like you're an architect designing a plan and system for them. People love the authenticity of you actually using traditional means to emphasize a point. So you're using, Tim, you're using the bandwidth on the portals to help them fall into a bandwidth that's going to attract buyers. And do you actually bring up do you actually show other properties?
Absolutely, yeah. And I'd know them ahead of time moving into it, so I'm fully prepared. My prep is this thick, with brochures, PDOL or CMA report, any information I have on school zones, the actual, the type of category that the home that could be in a heritage overlay or a vegetation overlay. So I'll know it all ahead of time. I'm more prepared, and I like to try to be more prepared than any other competitor will be, and show that I'm more professional and more knowledgeable.
Now, I just want to ask you the question of commissions, right? By the way, gang, while that's going on, I want to actually show people that look, we'll stop the video there. I've just brought an iPad into the equation. I just want to show people, often just having, a thing like GoodNotes and a pencil at a presentation, you can simply sit there and help people understand the concept. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, that's 100%. Our job is to try and get you a 10% premium. And I want to let you know, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, that this is what we plan to do. Put it on REA, domain, blah, 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 Fletchers. Often I find drawing things up, an image helps people understand. And if you're not using pen and paper, get yourself an iPad with a nice pencil. And there he is. He's got it. There's a new Tim. I'm going to go buy the new. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Hey, Tim, have you, out of curiosity, you got the big iPad or the small one?
Big. Yeah, it's more professional. Absolutely. Yeah, okay. The honky one. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So next question I was going to ask you is...
But I don't use my iPad, Tom. I disagree with you.
Right.
Because I rather use pen and paper and leave it there with them. If you don't get the listing, you're going to leave something with them. Otherwise, you take that iPad with you. They haven't got that information. So when they're talking about it with a cup of tea or a glass of wine at night, they'll be looking over my notes, not looking at your iPad that you've taken away with you.
So Tim, I'm curious. The notes that you normally draw up.
Yeah.
Typically, what other sort of things you've got on there?
So, like what I would do with a bit of paper, I would say to get the very best price is put into four categories. One is the presentation of your home. So I'll literally draw this up. The other is your agent / auctioneer. Other is the agent's price guide. And the other pillar to get right is the marketing. Now, if we can get all four of those things working together, then I'm going to get you the best price. Let's talk about this.
I love that. I'm just thinking of a beautiful guy. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I want to let you know the value of your home is dependent on four factors. Number one, presentation. Number two, the price guide. Number 3, the agent you pick. And number 4, the marketing you use. The good news is you control all 4. Let's talk about it. Love it, love it, love it, love it. So, Tim, I want to talk to you about this thing about commission, right? It would be remiss of us, right? I would presume with such a high absorption rate, some of the agents in the marketplace must be really going to extreme lengths in decreasing their fee. I would envisage, because that's what normally happens when stock's tight.
Don't forget, I said this at the start. There's 3 types of listing presentation. 1, they're not selling. Let's not forget, not worry about them. But 2, they've already made the decision. The decision's either made with you or without you. So if the decision's made with you, you can actually hold your fee. So don't forget that. So I'll give you a quick story. A few years ago, I got called in to a property that I sold. So I sold a property on the Saturday. On the Monday, they called into the office, spoke to my assistant and set up an appointment for me to go around there. I knocked on the door. This is real time. I went in and there was this kid, I don't know, he was about 22 years old. And at the time he had like a Safeway uniform thing on, Tom.
Yeah.
And he said, come on in, my mum's not here yet. I said, okay. He'd made me a coffee and we're just sort of having small talk. And then his robust mum came in. And later I found out she was a GP. And she came in and she's, sorry, I'm late, Tim. And she came up to the meals table and she saw the coffee and there was like floaty things in the coffee. And she said, who made you this coffee? And her son, Ivan, said, I made it, Mama. She said, you don't know how to make coffee? I make coffee. Go. Anyway, so he scampered down. It was only a small 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom brick veneer. And he scampered down and she threw the coffee down, into the sink. She said, don't worry, Tim, I make you good coffee. And I believed her, Tom. I thought, that's good. Because that's a problem in my head. I don't have to drink that coffee. And then as she's making the coffee, she said, my son, he likes to watch the pornos on his computer. And I said, And so she sort of took upon me that I didn't hear properly. So she came up really close and she said, my son, Ivan, he likes to watch pornos on his computer. And I'm like, oh. And she kind of thought, was like, maybe he doesn't believe me. So Ivan, are you watching? Mama, please. And then I said, Tom, so will you be ready to take photos on Monday? That's what I said next time. And she said, what about the commission? Don't worry, we'll fill that in on the authority. She said, I'll just go get you the keys. That is the listing presentation, Tom. The reason is that she's going to talk like that in front of me about her son. She's already decided she's going with me. There's no listing presentation. There's no discussion on commission. You hold your fee, you sign it up.
And you know what the amateurs would have done there, Tim? They would have said, but no, let me go through my slide deck. But let me show you, there are 8 steps to this. I haven't gone through the second step yet. Just hang in there. Guys and girls, meet people where they're at.
Close.
Okay. So, Tim, I want to talk, and then I'm going to hand over to Frank because this is, I don't know, but Frank, I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Very good.
I've enjoyed it. Now, Tim, I just want to ask, right? So, there are times that you sign it up and with Ivan's mum, poor old Ivan that watches porn and can't make a decent cup of coffee. What you did there is you signed it up, right? But what happens when we don't have Ivan's mum?
Yeah.
And we don't have Ivan and they say, look, just leave it with us. And you can tell, Tim, that if you go in too hard, you're going to might actually do some damage to the emotional relationship. I mean, but this is a fine line because sometimes I think you've got to go further, but you've got to read the play, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about what do you do there when it's not being signed up?
So I would ask Frank, what's your understanding with commission, Frank?
Good question. We've had a few agents, obviously the market's really tight. So a few agents have, told us that they'll do their absolute best and we're looking around 1.2%.
Okay. So when you sold last time, do you remember what the commission was?
It's a long time ago, but I think it was maybe 1.8%.
Okay, so you paid 1.8% last time. And do you remember the value of the home?
Yep, the value of the home was it was an apartment. It was 650,000.
So on 650, you paid 1.8%.
Yes.
Yeah. So how commission works in general, doesn't matter if you're selling in Melbourne or interstate or anywhere in Australia, commission's generally pretty much the same everywhere. And it works on an economy of scale. So if you like, I can show you how it works.
Yes, please.
So let me draw this up for you. Now, when I first heard economy of scale, I thought, my goodness, what does that mean? So if your home is worth, say, $3 million, then the commission might be more around 1%. And if your home is worth, say, $2 million or $1 million, it might be more around 2%. And then if you're around $300,000, then the commission might be, say, at 3%. And this is the economy of scale I'm talking about. So roughly, how much is your home worth, roughly, you think, Frank?
I think it's worth 1.8.
1.8. So if we said roughly around that 1.8%, that sounds fair. Does that sound fair to you?
Yeah, but I guess it all comes down to, if another agent's willing to give it to me for 1.2, then how come yours would be more expensive?
So you had rates at 1.2%?
Yeah, I had Sally from down the road.
Sure. So what's most important to you in terms of selecting your agent?
Well, ultimately, it's about getting the best price so that we can get into the next home.
Yes. So obviously, the best net outcome would be important to you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So if we talked about the actual commission structure, and I appreciate it's one of the elements that would be important to you and Sally to make a decision. But if we say even agreed on that 1.2%, have I done enough to earn your business? We can move forward today.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're the best choice at 1.2%.
Okay. So with that 1.2%, if we were to actually consider a different type of structure, would you be open-minded to that?
Maybe. It depends what it is.
Okay. So there's various different types of commission models that we can explore. But sometimes the commission's actually got to be fair, not only for you and Sally, but for me, but to everybody. And when I say everybody, there's actually a whole team behind me at Fletchers that would be remunerated in introducing some of their buyers to a property as well. So we've got to keep everyone hungry, if you know what I mean, Frank.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's a bit barbaric, but what you kill is what you eat in commission sales.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So with that in mind, and I appreciate 1.2% is a super competitive rate, would you be open-minded to say, if we cut the difference and say did it a very good decent rate at say 1.5%, would you be open-minded to that?
Yeah, I'd definitely look at that. Yeah.
Can we move forward today on that basis?
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Okay.
Frank was very easy on me, Tom.
He was easy, and you are going to get the easy ones. You are going to get, occasionally you're going to get Mr. and Mrs. Papadopoulos, right?
Yeah.
Right. I can say that because I'm of Greek origin. Don't freak out, right? But here's to everyone that's watching this. I feel like Peter Sterling doing the analysis of what just happened now. Let me just give you some key points there. Number one is he narrowed it down and basically said, hey, if I did it at 1.2, would you go with me? So straight away, he put himself in a position to get the listing. The next thing that you noticed in his conversation, he moved away from fee minimization and started talking about the benefit you'll get in your net pocket. Right? So he changed the conversation about fee and started talking about net value. Warren Buffett says it. People pay your commission, but it's value that they get back. The third thing that you did, and it was a little bit of an ethical bribe, I would call it, you intelligently sort of said, hey, I've got this team of people and I want them to be getting really enthusiastic about showing your property. More or less, you sort of said that, right? So all they're saying is, hang on a second, more agents, more buyers, right? So he's linking it up to everything we're doing potentially will get you more money. And then the last thing I really, really like is you still made it look like you're getting, like, it's always good, Tim, to let people feel like they got something. So the way that you sort of said, man, if we did it at 1.5, he feels like he is getting a deal there. Everyone's got to feel like, there's a saying, every child gets a prize. Everyone's got to feel like, hey, I got something out of that equation. Loved it. Listen, as we go towards the end of this prezzo, I just want to ask you, do you ever, with Real Hub and the engaged product, do you ever use the document, like a price update document, or anything else, or it's not something that you do, or leaving a document behind with them?
Well, I tend to lead my CMA prep. I'm not mad on writing reports, to be honest, Tom.
Yeah.
So if I can try and close it out, I would, rather than going back and writing a report, which seems to be the norm these days. So I try to close out. Now, you do have to write reports sometimes, and having those type of reports where they click on a link and you can see who's actually opened it up or not is pretty good information to see when they're actually opening, because that could be the opportune time to then call them.
Yeah, well, they say that, the timing of situations highly impact the way a conversation is going to go. I've got to tell you, Tim, you're an absolute pleasure. I've known you for a couple of decades. I still remember coming in to when you were involved with the REI. Are you still involved with the REI?
No, I'm not part of the salesperson chapter anymore. But yeah, that was great when you came in and looked after us. It was fantastic. So I really appreciate that time. That was amazing.
I remember that was, quite some time ago. I've come to your team and presented, I think maybe 2 or 3 times in the last few years. It's an absolute pleasure working for you and your, is it American or Canadian CEO there?
CEO is American from LA, Bradley Brown, terrific fella.
Terrific guy. Say hi to, a nice guy that cares. Frank, I'm going to hand over to you to finish up, because I'm mindful of Tim's time. I've also got a webinar I've got to do in a moment, but I'm going to hand over to you, Frank, and absolute pleasure, Tim. I'm not surprised you do so well, because you come across as someone that, number 1, cares, number 2, solves a problem, number 3, builds rapport, and I just think you make it easy for people to say yes, just your approach. So Frank, over to you.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.
For me, to be honest, you've gone above and beyond today, so no more questions from my side. I think this was an awesome session, a lot of value, Tim, and I can, just like Tom said, I can see exactly why you're smashing it, and I reckon you'll continue to do so. So thank you so much. I'm sure everybody got a lot out of today, and thank you, Tom, as always.
Guys, girls, signing off. Tim, go off and sign number 25 or number 26, is it? Number
25. I'm after 26. That'll happen. 26 my record. Yeah.
Oh, geez,
you got it.
Making a lot of money. Maybe they can give some to Geelong, get themselves some. All righty.
They're 4 and 2. 4 and 2.
See you, gang.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Bye.